Ginger Rogers was born Virginia Catherine McMath on July 16, 1911, in Independence, Missouri. From a tomboyish young girl from the American Midwest to an internationally acclaimed actress, dancer, and singer, her life pathway was forged through resilience, ambition, and extraordinary natural talents. Mainly brought up by her strong-willed mother, Isla Owens Rogers, who became her manager afterward. She grew up in a household that fostered creativity, independence, and a belief in oneself. It was there that Ginger found her love for dance, vaudeville, and performing, which planted the seeds of a career that would span over 5 decades. Her rise began in the lively spirit of the 1920s when, at just 14, she won a Charleston dance competition. That early victory opened doors to vaudeville touring companies and eventually Broadway, where she charmed audiences with her comedic timing and magnetic stage presence. Hollywood soon took notice. By the early 1930s, she had transitioned to film and quickly became one of RKO Pictures' brightest young talents. Her breakthrough arrived when she was paired with a rising dancer named Fred Astaire in the 1933 film Flying Down to Rio. What began as a minor supporting role blossomed into one of cinema's most legendary partnerships. Throughout 10 films, including classics like Top Hat in 1935, Swing Time in 1936, and Shall We Dance in 1937, Ginger and Fred transformed the movie musical. The duo combined elegance and emotion with technical mastery to create scenes still amongst the most treasured moments of Hollywood. Yet, at all times, Ginger Rogers was something more than Fred Astaire's partner. Driven by the urge to prove her skills as a dramatic actress, she accepted different roles that really brought out her depth as an actress. Her performance in Kitty Foyle in 1940, in which she played the role of a working-class woman facing love, ambition, and societal pressure, won her the Academy Award for Best Actress and entrenched her as a versatile talent. During the succeeding decades, Ginger continued to sparkle in a dazzling array of roles: comedy, drama, musical, radio, stage productions, and later television. Her versatility and intelligence placed her as one of the most respected entertainers of her generation. Off-screen, she was similarly admired for her humility, generosity, and strong work ethic. Down to earth, despite her fame, she insisted on maintaining her independence during an era when studios at times dominated the lives of their stars. The legacy of Ginger Rogers survives, of course, in her films, but also in the grace, determination, and authenticity with which she lived her life. She was a symbol of classic American glamour, but also of how to survive and be true to oneself, inspiring generations through her artistry and her steadfast commitment to her craft. Ginger Rogers' personal life unfolded through a series of relationships that mirrored the frenetic pace of her career and the inner turmoil she faced. During her lifetime, she married 5 times and divorced each husband, with every marriage marking a new stage in her development as a woman battling fame, professional drive, and personal pursuit of emotional stability. Notwithstanding the many relationships she held, Rogers never bore any children. Later in her life, she talked openly about the sacrifices she had to make on her way to a successful Hollywood career, admitting that its frantic rhythm and permanent stress had left no space for motherhood. Her first marriage, to Jack Pepper, born Edward Jackson Culpepper, a vaudeville dancing partner whom she met on the touring circuit, took place on March 29, 1929, when she was just 17. Even at that young age, she was already a rising performer with a strong, independent streak. Their bond was energetic and youthful, but the pressures of travel and performance, combined with Rogers' rapidly changing ambitions, caused cracks to form almost immediately. Though the marriage officially lasted until 1931, they separated shortly after the wedding, and by the time her career was gaining momentum, the relationship had become a distant memory. In 1932, shortly after the divorce, Rogers entered into a short-lived yet significant relationship with Hollywood director and producer Mervyn Leroy. Their romance blossomed at a very pivotal period in her emerging film career. Although the feelings between them were true, the relationship never developed into a long-term union. Nevertheless, the friendship they built proved exceptionally lasting. They remained great friends for over 50 years, experiencing a constant, loyal companionship amidst the transient Hollywood scenes until Leroy's death in 1987. In 1934, Rogers married the already well-known actor Lou Ayres from All Quiet on the Western Front. For a while, their understanding of fame and its pressures gave their marriage a sure footing. As both pursued demanding careers, however, their paths started to diverge. Their personal priorities slowly shifted with time, and the marriage slowly came undone. After 6 years together, they divorced in 1940, closing a chapter that had been both meaningful and difficult. Her third marriage started in 1943, during World War II, to Jack Briggs, a U.S. Marine whose discipline and down-to-earth demeanor contrasted strongly with the frenetic pace of Hollywood. They were genuinely in love, but the long separations because of Briggs' military service and Rogers' commitments to films precluded sustaining this marriage. Eventually, the strain became too much, and they divorced in 1950. Rogers' fourth marriage took place in 1953. The marriage to the French actor Jacques Bergerac received much publicity, not only for his charming and sophisticated nature, but also because he was 16 years younger than she was. They met in Paris, whose European manner so charmed her. A lawyer before he took up acting, Bergerac moved to Hollywood after marrying her and went into the entertainment business. While their relationship was filled with much glamour and excitement in the beginning, the relationship failed to bring her the permanence she so desired from the marriage. They divorced in 1957. Her fifth and final marriage came in 1961, when she married director and producer William Marshall. The two were creatively hot for each other, working on films together and trying to build business ventures, such as a production company based in Jamaica. Unfortunately, Marshall's struggles with alcohol and the eventual collapse of their company created heavy financial and emotional strain. Nearly a decade later, they divorced in 1970, which brought the long and often turbulent journey that Rogers had been on through marriage to an end. Public fascination with her marriages belied a lifelong interest in her on-screen partnership with Fred Astaire. For decades, fans and film historians had speculated about the nature of their relationship. The on-screen chemistry was almost otherworldly. Many simply assumed that romance must exist off-screen as well. Ginger Rogers had spoken warmly of Fred Astaire for decades, but she rarely offered the deeply personal reflections that fans longed to hear. Later in her life, she finally chose to open up to share what it had really been like to work beside the man who defined so much of her career, and whom she helped raise to legendary Hollywood status. Among the first myths she tried to dispel was the notion that she and Astaire had ever been distant or cool toward each other. People thought they were cordial strangers, only coming together when cameras rolled. She explained, but that was never true. They had tremendous respect for one another, even during those moments of disagreement or creative tension. According to Rogers, their partnership worked not because they were the same, but because they were constantly provoking each other. Fred had an unyielding, laser-focused perfectionism, she said, and she had a hard-headed determination that equaled his. When those two qualities collided, you got sparks, not romantic sparks, but the ones that make aesthetic magic. She talked about the lengthy, taxing rehearsals, often extending well after most people's normal workday. Astaire was famous for doing take after take until every step was perfect. Rogers acknowledged it could sometimes be a grueling experience, but somehow she always pushed through. Sometimes she felt her feet couldn't take another step, but his quiet determination inspired her to go on. He never asked of her anything he was not willing to give himself, she said. She believed their shared discipline and devotion were the reasons their dance numbers became timeless works of art, studied long after the golden age of musicals had faded. And she acknowledged, too, the emotional complexity in their partnership, which the public so often romanticized. People wished to believe they were lovers, she said. And, in a manner, they were just not in the way audiences imagined. They shared a creative love, a deep trust that allowed them to move almost as if they shared one heartbeat. That kind of artistic connection, she explained, is rare and precious. While they remained friends off-screen, their personal lives followed different paths, making the idea of a real romance impossible. Still, she never resented the fantasies that surrounded them. To her, they were a tribute to what they had created together. Reflecting on decades of collaboration, Rogers spoke of appreciation rather than nostalgia. Fred taught her discipline, finesse, and patience, she said. She believed she gave him strength, humor, and perhaps a touch of daring. Their artistic relationship was far more collaborative than people assumed, she stressed. It wasn't just Fred leading and Ginger following. She contributed steps, timing, and ideas, and he respected her contributions wholeheartedly. Summing up their partnership in her last thoughts about it, she captured the essence of their relationship. They were two very different people who created something neither could have achieved alone. Fred was her partner, her teacher, her challenger, and her friend. She would always be grateful for every step they danced. With time, Ginger Rogers settled into a quiet lifestyle, spent shuttling between the two houses she loved. For the winter months, she came to Rancho Mirage, California, a tranquil desert community bathed in golden sunlight, dramatic mountain vistas, comfort, and a tamer pace. This is where she sought privacy, spent time with close friends reflecting on her long career and the beauty of the desert surrounding her. When summer hit, she would leave California for Medford, Oregon, a place she cherished for its lush greens and cool breezes. The ranch property in Medford really made her enjoy small-town warmth, much like those principles instilled in the Midwest of her upbringing. She loved guests, threw parties, and enjoyed simple pleasures of country living. The yin and yang of her desert resort in gentility and the rural haven in quietude reflected the split sides of her personality, a woman who embraced glamour and groundedness. Ginger Rogers continued to split her time between these two beloved homes until the end of her life. On April 25, 1995, she died at her residence in Rancho Mirage due to a heart attack. She was 83 years old. The news of her death resonated deeply through the entertainment world, as fans and colleagues alike mourned the loss of a woman whose elegance, talent, and determination had defined an era in film and dance. Piqua honored her wishes, having Rogers cremated, the ashes placed beside the person who had been her greatest source of strength right from the beginning, her mother, Lela Emmeline Owens. Lela, a mother who was also a manager, confidant, and tireless supporter, was instrumental in guiding Rogers from a determined young dancer to one of Hollywood's most iconic stars. They were laid to rest together at Oakwood Memorial Park Cemetery in Chatsworth, California, a serene resting place known for its beautiful grounds and for being the final home to many Hollywood legends. Their burial side by side was a symbolic lifelong bond that guided and strengthened Ginger Rogers through every chapter of her extraordinary life.